Woodley Town Council's committee Strategy and Resources Committee, being held on the 26th of November 2024. Woodley Town Council meetings are now recorded, with recordings streamed live and stored on the Town Council's YouTube channel. By virtue of attending the meeting, you consent to having your image and audio recorded for this purpose. If you do not wish for your image and audio to be recorded, then please do not stay for the meeting. For those in attendance, we're not expecting a fire drill tonight. So if you hear the fire alarm, please head to the nearest fire exit and congregate at the fire assembly point by the Oakwood Centre at the front of Woodford Park. Thank you very much. So into the agenda, item 1, any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from councillors Horskins, Kennedy and Rowland. Both councillors Horskins and Rowland are attending virtually.
Right. How is the sound? Okay, good. Do we have any declarations of interest? Nope. Minutes of the meeting held on 10th of September 2024. Can I approve those minutes? Yes, thank you very much. The show actions follow up, page 5. Here we go. Over to you, Kevin.
Just a few to highlight there. Minute 7, the Leisure Services meeting on the 19th of November approved an approach for the new service, youth service, and to extend the end date for the task and finish group to complete those tasks. So progress on that will be, and the updated strategy will come back to Leisure Services and then back to this committee in due course. Also to note, minutes 8, 57, 76 will have a full report in this agenda. And to note, there's some supplementary information on your desk relating to minute 91.3, which is the Climate Action Week update.
Okay. Any questions? Anne?
Yes, so minute 44, town clerks look at Oakwood Centre income in relation to capacity in addition to income. It's last updated in April.
Yeah.
And it said there will be an overall review of marketing. Has the review happened?
It hasn't. What we are doing is moving to a new computer system, which is going to give us data in order to put together that marketing plan. We've still got a system which doesn't provide us with capacity information with a breakdown of where that income is for the centre. So we need that tool in order to do it, but we're working towards that, and we'll have that for the new financial year.
Very good. And minute 67, it says IT infrastructure upgrade in July 24. Documents due to be updated in light of this. Have they been?
Not quite. We are almost there. We have moved all of our IT to a new provider. We've made significant upgrades in all areas, including hardware. Currently being done with our Leisure Centre. That work will be this committee allocated and be able to bring that information back as well. That will also come through just for information through the risk management subcommittee that looks at that, because that always forms part of that, and we report that back through as well.
Okay, thanks. Minute 73, it says the amenities team is going to investigate in more detail. This is the installation of a borehole. Have they done that?
No, that's been a capacity issue that hasn't been reported.
Right, okay. And 91.1, to undertake carbon footprint assessment. Report will take 2 to 4 weeks after a submission of worksheet. Has the report been produced?
We don't have a report yet. We have established more information and submitted all our energy and consumption figures and staff commuting mileage and all those sorts of things to collect that information. I think there might be some, I think it's waste that's outstanding. We've got some calculations to provide to the company doing the assessment on some of our waste contractor information, and then we'll have that. Yeah, it's everything. So
Yes. Okay, that's fine. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? No. Okay, I'm looking for the screen as well. Robert and Beth has just disappeared. Okay, so before we go to item 5, the finance, I have had a request to move 2 items up, which I want to put to the committee to see if they agree. The first item is item 13, which is Weevil Park. The request is to put that up so that my friend over there in the corner can go home to her chicken and chips or whatever early. And the other one is Councillor Alex is here from to item 14 to raise a couple of questions, and I would suggest the request is to move that up as well. So are there any objections to doing that in the committee? Otherwise we'll do that. That's fine. So let's go straight then into item 13, Weevil Park, page 65, a long-running saga of Weevil Park. Over to you, Kevin.
thank you, Chair. So just a summary of the background here. The site's currently managed under a lease agreement which runs till 2031. This council cuts the grass, empties the bins, maintains the play equipment and inspects it, including the annual ROSPA inspection for play equipment, and generally manages the site. We pay a little over £200 a year to Reading Borough Council under the terms of that lease. Previously, the Leisure Services Committee expressed a desire to look at replacement of the play equipment, which is fairly limited and was installed back in 2006. This committee wished that the potential to take ownership of the site be explored before progressing with any potential investment in equipment, with concerns raised about investing in a site that was not owned by the town council. The current position is that Reading Borough Council are not in a position to transfer the land and nor to carry out a valuation of the land for sale purposes. So then they're not able to transfer or not willing to transfer it to the town council, or in a position to value it so that we consider a purchase of it at this point. What they have offered is a new long-term lease could be negotiated for the site, so it's probably a similar length, 30 years, to the one that we currently have, and that might make this council feel more comfortable about investment in the site for residents. I've distilled those things down into 3 potential courses of action, which you can see there on page 66. So those are one, which is to continue with the current situation, maintaining the site, but not replacing the equipment or investing in that. That may not make much sense. In essentially, we're paying Reading for the privilege of cutting the grass, kind of, to put it bluntly, if we're not doing anything else with it. A second option would be to request a new long-term lease, under which an investment be made to replace play equipment, and that might be that lease would be of a similar or a longer period than the lifespan of the play equipment that might go in. So again, if you're looking at kind of 30 years, you might expect the lifespan of that play equipment to be around 20 or something like that. And thirdly, if those aren't appealing, then there is the option of returning the site to Reading Borough Council and either ending the lease or letting that run its course until 2031.
Okay, before I throw it open to the floor, I just want to draw some attentions to some of these things. Later on, we will be talking about the recommendations from the Youth Working Party. those recommendations, which are quite impressive, as usual, they're going to be quite costly. And I just asked the committee to think about which would you prefer to do, because I think it's an either or. Invest in that investment for the youth strategy to include that, which covers all the youths in the whole of Woodley, as opposed to continuing investment, 20 to 30,000 in Weevil Park, which clearly is accessible to a smaller amount of residents and children within the that particular area. Plus, we need to remember that a large number of the properties in the immediate vicinity are actually Reading Borough Council properties. And the children from those houses are paying, or the parents are paying rent. Yes, I'm going to come to you afterwards. Once I want to get all these, I need the committee view first, and then I will ask you to speak, all right? So they're really Reading Borough Council children rather than our own children. We have the harsh reality. So just putting that together, now I'm going to put it over. Alison had her hand first.
I just wanted to ask Kevin a question about, you talked about open market valuations of land. Now, I believe that land clearly in the local plan, cannot be developed. Nobody could build houses or shops or put businesses on it. It has to be kept as open green amenity space. So I can't see how it can have very much value
I mean, that was the
on the open
question.
market.
Yeah, that was the question I'd asked, because actually if there was an opportunity for the council to purchase it, what are we talking about? What would that look like? And that was the response, that they weren't in a position to carry it.
They just seem to be determined to block this, for no reason whatsoever.
And just to add to Alison's comment, this has been rolling on now for over 12 months. And purchasing the land was raised right at the beginning 12 months ago. And frankly, if you're sitting in Reading Borough Council's view, why would you do anything? Because you've got somebody else paying for everything. And it doesn't come off the Reading Borough Council taxpayer, it's coming off Woodley taxpayers, etc. Kay, I think.
Well, that was precisely what I was going to say.
Sorry, can I have a second question?
Sorry.
Right. I'm really sorry if I'm being a bit stupid here, but which agenda item is the one you referred to as coming from the youth? I can see community grant.
Oh, that comes from leisure services.
What are they?
Which?
Well, okay, I can
As well.
I can very quickly.
And so it's not something on our agenda tonight?
Yes, it is, isn't it?
What number is it? I can see other people looking a little bit puzzled when you were referring to it.
There isn't an agenda item tonight. The Leisure Services Committee last week approved to have a strategy updated based on the work of the Youth Support Services Working Group.
Okay.
And when that's updated, it will go via leisure
Okay.
to then come by this group to then be
So-
approved.
Okay, so
So let me clarify then, because that's
just ahead.
yes. So the recommendations are Council Youth Support Service provision will target all children and young people aged 9 to 21. Specific focus on supporting those who are deemed to be or preventing those who may become vulnerable, especially those not currently engaging. Council primarily focus on providing their youth support service provision during school holidays, Friday evenings between 3 p.m. and late. Also seeking to provide further services on Mondays to Thursday between 3 p.m. and 7 p.m. and during national holidays, events and the following. It's a lot of time. Primarily seeks to provide its youth support service provision from a mobile venue, e.g. a van, converted bus or trailer. To supplement this, council provides services from other venues and facilities, either owned by the council or not, etc. The last one, I was just saying what it seeks through its youth support provision, regular activity-led sessions, irregular activity-led sessions, facilitate and coordinate a variety of youth services and activities, providing a setting for young people to casually meet, chat and spend time with friends. That is a huge, huge shopping list. And I frankly, even without this Weeble Park issue, I don't think we're going to be able to satisfy that totally anyway.
I think there's somebody else.
I was going to say, I don't know how we got in this position in the first place, because Reading obviously are in a very pretty position. It's their land, they're doing nothing. They're charging us to use it and to maintain it for them. So it seems a no situation. I think that they should be made to look after their own land. And
So whilst I don't disagree with that, they're not going to. So if we want a good provision for those families, and I hear what you're saying about residents, but these are generally socioeconomically challenged families. There are health inequalities. There are lots of good reasons why you want a functioning playground there. I hear the youth services thing, but it feels like youth to me. You're not going to get 5 or 6 year olds going to a mobile unit. This is somewhere where families can go together and spend some time together. So I would be very strongly, and I know there is a tension. I get there is a tension, but you know, we maybe need to look at other funds. Maybe we need to look at some capital funds for the bus or whatever. But I am very strongly in support of doing something with this park. We're not going to get rid of it. You know, even if we say you keep it, we're not going to get rid of it to 2031, which is a long time, actually. We have to maintain it. We need to keep it safe. We need to keep those people safe. And I just think it's a bit of a, nobody knows who owns it. The people who live around it don't see that it's Reading. They don't. And whilst I don't disagree with you that they should take ownership, they haven't so far. What's going to make them? And it's on our doorstep. I think we should do something about this. And maybe we don't invest 30,000, but maybe we do something with it to try and make it a bit more usable and a bit safer and a bit more inclusive.
Okay.
My pitch.
Before I go to Rob, can I come back on that? I totally understand what you're saying. A lot of them empathy for it, but there's a bill here of 30,000.
Up to 30,000.
To completely replace it.
Yeah.
Hardly used. But
Well, is it hardly used? I don't understand the usage.
I've been around them many, many times, but I'm sure June's going to be able to tell us a little bit more because they've been. Sorry, Yvonne. In a minute, okay. I'll call you. And it is to me, it's a very simple. Do we spend the money on one park for a small subset? Very important subset.
Is the total, all the money we've got, 30k.
It's 35,000 for the youth services side, right?
But we didn't spend it last year, did we?
It was placed into a pot for youth grants and
And it's been spent.
And that's been all gone.
Right.
Yeah, there's a tiny bit.
So
So yes, that is the total.
so the 20,000. Let's use the upper part. The 20,000 means we'll have 15,000 left for what the youth service. Now that might be what this committee want to do. Okay, I have my own view, but it's a committee decision.
And I think it's
where we prioritise that money.
quite difficult. And all of those aims that the leisure services have come up with sound perfectly sensible to me. I would just like to understand how they're going to operationalise that. Does that mean we're subcontracting out to somebody? Does that mean we're buying a lorry? What does that mean?
I will come to you, Robert. Just hang on. Let me have an answer, and then if you want to.
Yeah, so I was just going to answer Juliet's question just really quickly, which is we don't know, and that's why the
And I think that makes it really difficult to do an either or when we don't actually know.
and the working group was extended to carry out that last bit of work.
Well, one option on this table, which is not here, is because we don't know, because they haven't done a costing and what have you. We don't actually make a decision on this. We don't invest the 20,000. We put it off until we know precisely how much the youth service is. Yeah. That could be a compromise. Robert first.
Thanks, Keith. I'd like to echo word for word what Juliet has just said. I mean, she literally took the words out of my mouth. Now, because of what I've written down here is the money. We've got this park until 2031. So why don't we monitor its use over the next few years, allocate, reserve £5,000 a year for those years, And then we can then have a sum of money, which in 2031, we can get a new 30-year lease. We'll have 30 odd £1,000 that we can spend on some equipment and actually make it a park that's really worth the use of it. I know it's not far from Woodford, but even walking a 5-year-old child just from there to Woodford is a bit far. And as Juliet said, the residents don't know the differential between whether it's a Reading Park or a Woodley Park. A caveat to that would be we'd have to have it set in stone from Reading that we're paying 200 quid plus RPI per year for the whole 30 years, and there's no get out clause. We don't want to be spending 30 or 40,000 pounds improving it and then them closing the lease on us.
Would you like to
Thank you.
comment on that leasing question at all? Do you know?
Oh, in terms of the lease,
Yeah.
we've not explored that any further than the fact that they've offered that they would be prepared to engage in a new lease.
We're going to come to Yvonne. Hang on.
Sorry?
Yeah, go on.
Oh, okay, thank you. Yes, so I'm inclined to agree with Juliet and Rob, really. I think the idea of saving up for a few years to get to the £30,000 might be a good idea. I think they should have a good play area in this area. I would have thought that the money that we spend on play areas was a different budget, really, to the youth services budget, because we do maintain play areas, don't we? And we don't use the youth services budget for that. So I would assume
We do allocate a portion of money in the budget each year for play areas.
Yes, exactly.
It's £5,000 last year, but that can be whatever.
So I suppose we'll take up the whole budget for a few years.
And just let me hang on. Let me just add to that. It has been maintained, and it will continue to be maintained. The various health and safety checks will continue and will be, if there's anything identified, will be acted on by the town council. So from that perspective, it can carry on as is now. But I think, and Yvonne could correct me if I'm wrong here, I think the demand is to do an upgrade now. So what's being suggested here, and I see, Beth, I'll come to you afterwards, is to effectively defer it and maybe put some contingency money aside so that when we have to replace it, we can do it. So I'm going to go to Beth now.
Thank you, Keith. If we defer it, the children that the boy that you were talking about, excuse me, who's now 5, will be 11 and not interested. And we're providing nothing in that area for 6 years for the children that are there now. I really don't think that's fair. I think we should be looking at something relatively low level, even if it's only swings and things like that, to put in for today's children and look after them. Because, as you say, a 5-year-old walking to Woodford Park is away. If they've got something local and these children aren't old enough to move about on their own, they need something local where they can have mum or dad or someone in the park with them. I don't think we could put them aside for 5-6 years.
Can I just point out, Beth, there is equipment there already, which is past ROSPA safety agreement, and I can't remember, certainly I know there's a slide in there, and is there
it's a multi-play unit, but it's
got basketball unit, a net for the older children. So I'm going to go
small sports hall.
I'm going to go to Robert, and then I'm going to come to Yvonne because she's been very patient.
Thanks, Keith. Just something just came into my head. Can we renew the lease now? So could we negotiate with Reading and say, right, we've got 7 years, 6-7 years left on this lease. Can we change it now to a 36-year lease now? And then if we know that today, then let's bite the bullet, spend 30,000 quid, get the park up to date, and we know for our lifetimes the park is there and in good working order.
We could do that.
Not today, but yes, I don't think that would be a problem at all.
The only point I'm going to come back on, which is a generic one, is we haven't got a bottomless pit, and we have got, coming down the line, huge increases on national insurance, on various taxations that are going through with this current government. for right or wrong reasons, I'm not going to comment on that. So we're going to be on extreme cost pressures, and that's why I highlighted this other one. We have to bear that in mind for what we do in the future. We will have to make decisions. We can't do everything that we want to do. So I did promise, Yvonne, she's done some research work first.
Yes, I did a short survey myself, and Councillor June Taylor went and spoke to 58 of the local residents around the park in October. And
what locations were they? What roads? Could you just tell us all?
they were Weeble Road, so basically the perimeter of the park. So is it Bruce Road? Yeah, so we did the entire perimeter, and everybody who was in, we spoke to. And I wrote a report. I'm a little bit disappointed that it isn't here because it didn't go to leisure services, and I was told it was coming here. But I can certainly tell you our findings. The residents, although unanimously they enjoyed having the green space, a lot of the families had young children and didn't feel that the current play equipment was, in their eyes, safe. I know you're saying it's been safety checked, but and certainly it's dilapidated. People said things like depressing, dilapidated. People felt that they would use it much more if it were upgraded. And I think, Keith, we're talking about a different demographic entirely. Juliet made that point to the youth services, where we would be looking at youths from 9 upwards and more likely sort of teenagers. We're looking at young children here. There are a lot of young families that have moved into the area, a lot of owner-occupiers. You know, I think maybe it's changed. I don't know what percentage of Reading council houses there are, but I think there are a few bungalows that elderly people inhabit at one end of Weeble Road. But I think generally they're Woodley owner-occupied houses. But anyway, you know, it's not their fault, and I think that the fact that in Woodley we provide decent play facilities for the majority of areas for our residents in Woodley, and I don't know why we don't want to do the same for the residents of Bournemouth who live near Weeble Park. As a local teacher, I'm a strong advocate of safe local play facilities for young children. It's very important in their development into completely.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Of the 58 houses you knocked on, what percentage had families? What percentage were in the say under 9s? Do you know?
I would have to go back to my figures to work out the percent, or do you just want it off the top of my head? Sort of?
Well, what is the feeling? Because if it was like 50% had no children, then I'm not going to say you can discount it.
No.
But if they just want the green land, it's
a few said that they, a few who were older, whose children had grown up or whatever, said that they have grandchildren who visit and they would use the park more often to take their grandchildren. Some people said that they would go and walk there themselves if there were, you know, places to walk where it wasn't muddy, and there was maybe a bench to rest on. Some of the elderly residents. I mean, I don't know, that's another dimension really, and I don't know whether we want to go down that road if we're talking about young children and play equipment. But whether they had children or not, the residents were in favour of providing something for the young children in the area.
We do need to focus on the group that we're talking about. So the new equipment we talk about isn't for the elderly. It's because I don't think the elderly.
But actually, you know, sticking a social chat bench in there is not a bad idea.
But we can do that. It's not £20,000. We could do that tomorrow. You know, that's something.
I've not costed it, I'm not sure where the figure.
So I also want Kevin to answer your question about your report not being there.
Apologies, Yvonne, I do have your email here, and that isn't, the reason it wasn't in there, it wasn't sort of statistical, it was quite kind of anecdotal, so apologies, I haven't put that in actually in the agenda. I think you.
I mean, I have here all of the notes that I took. Residents have put their names to it as well, so.
It would be really helpful if you could go back over those and do a bit of a statistical analysis of this number of people we spoke to, this number of people with under 9s, this number of people were, you know, and try and categorise it a little bit and let Kevin have that, and then that gives us sort of more of an evidence base.
Yes, because I mean, I get the impression here that the majority of people are for it, apart from one person.
No, well, we haven't voted, so
No, I know
definitely
you
can say
haven't.
that.
No, we haven't fully discussed it yet.
No, but listen.
But I understand your.
I think there's what there's certainly.
So there's a couple more here. Robert, do you still have your hand up for talking? Not yet? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
So, no, wait, I've got others. Alison?
So Robert mentioned assessing the use, you know, which I think is going to be quite difficult to have a proper methodological, you know, evidence-based of the use. But also, if it's not great at the moment, it's not going to be well used. And I think we can all agree, and we heard from Yvonne, that if it had, you know, more fun, better equipment, it would get a lot more use. So I'm not sure that assessing the use with the current equipment tells us anything at all. But if we had, you know, we've heard that, you know, people are very keen on it. And it is something that I think is worth investing in. But I completely appreciate that we haven't got pots of money. But, and I know I'm going to mix it up a lot here, looking further on in the agenda that we're talking about spending £30,000 or £40,000 on microphones, I'd rather spend, you know, money on children's play equipment.
Can I just ask a clarifying question, Kevin?
Yeah, of course.
How was the funded, the play equipment here funded? Was that out of the same pot, or was that a capital?
No, so it was largely Section 106 money. The council did contribute 57,000, I think, to top it up for the project here out of the general.
So as a premise, could we not repeat that?
We don't have Section 106 funds, so anything we were going to do would be funded from the general reserve.
And we wouldn't have that next year.
No, so we wouldn't have that.
It only comes with development of houses, and
We don't want more of this.
Woodley's full.
You can use community infrastructure levy money. We've spent that as well, and or at least allocated what we've had of that at the moment. What we have got is obviously various means of budgeting and funding things that the council might wish to do so. And I'm certainly in a position to be able to establish whether we could move to a new lease earlier rather than later, and this committee agreed in terms of that, if that's what the committee wished to do, and establish, excuse me, some more accurate costs for options for play equipment, so that we would know what we were talking about.
I find that very useful. I don't think we're in a situation of having all the data that we need to make a decision. I wholeheartedly agree we should do something. I think by extending a lease, because we're not going to give it back, so we might as well just extend it, and then at least we know what we've got. I don't see any reason we shouldn't do that, but I think we need to understand what leisure services are about, how much that is going to cost, what that means, whether we can do it in this financial year, and also, you know, what do we need? I haven't been to that park, so I have no concept of what it looks like, but how much could we spend to make it look a whole lot better without going to 30 grand?
Yes.
I don't know but it would be good to get some sensible costings.
Yeah, and the reason that hadn't happened is because it bounced around.
I completely understand that, and I agree with Keith. You know, there's a tension between what we want to do and what we can do, because there's always that tension, isn't there? You know, it's government money and it's public money. We have to use it to the best advantage. But I'm afraid I'm with Alison.
That would move things into the next cycle, which is fine because of the way the meetings fall. If we go to leisure first anyway, so we could go back to leisure with some proposals, costed proposals, and
But something tangible, since this has been knocking about for a long time, hasn't it? And I think if we can ask Yvonne to just make this a bit more, this is no disrespect, Yvonne, a bit less emotive and a bit more factual, then that will be helpful for us to be able to use those figures moving forward and that cost benefit piece as well. And, you know, if you want to work on Reading Borough Council in the background, then crack on, but I don't think you're going to get anywhere.
Just one thing, just to add in the context of that, and absolutely with the information we've on as well, we would carry out some consultation on that as a matter of course. So it was.
Kay, then Robert, then Margid, and then I'm going to draw a conclusion to this.
Right. In the past, there has been housing developments that have had children's playgrounds and the people on there don't want them. And the equipment has been taken out and given to someone else. I wonder if we could look into seeing if there's any children's play equipment that Wokingham have removed or people want them removing it. I mean, this has been done in the past and we've managed to get some equipment off of them for nothing.
I have to ask the question, I'm not aware of.
It has happened, I can
thing,
assure
but,
you. We got some from, in the South Lake area, we got some from somebody else.
The developers have got much cuter on that because they do canvass potential owners. And if the owners indicate that they don't want it, the developers say, thank you very much, that's just saved me £50,000. And that's happened in various, recently anyway. But Kevin will ask the question. I'm now going to go to Robert. Final say.
Thank you. Thank you, Keith. Can I make a proposal?
Go on then.
Crack on.
Right, okay. My proposal is, which I've scribbled on my note here, that this council, subject to an additional 30-year lease, allocates £15,000 from this year's budget and £15,000 from next year's budget to create this new play park to be open for summer 2025. Because as Juliet said, we have been kicking this can down the road, I paraphrase, kicking this can down the road for some time. And I really do think we should bring it to conclusion for the right reasons.
We got 15,000.
I'll just make a comment. You wouldn't be able to allocate 50k from this year's budget. You could allocate 15,000 from the general reserve, but there wouldn't be any money currently in a budget for.
Can I possibly, so you've seen there's an issue, Robert, can I sort of just massage that a bit to have a proposal that we ask the town clerk to pursue the extension of the lease so we get financial, and also put in, so if we did, whatever it was, 36 or something like that, we need to have a financial plan, which is more than just a one-off. So ask the town clerk to put together a 20-year financial plan, which talks about an initial capital outlay to upgrade, and then putting aside money every year to renew that, maybe in a 10-year time frame. So we put it on a proper financial footing, because at the moment it's just higgledy-piggledy. In reality, this has never been raised in all the years I've been on this council until last year, actually, when the councillors from Bullmarsh and Whitegate started asking questions. It had never been raised ever before. That doesn't say that there is no issue or demand. It just means it hasn't been raised. So my proposal would be investigate the extension of the lease and put together an associated long-term financial plan so we know what our financial commitment is for that 20 years, 30 years or whatever.
With a review with a view of reviewing that at the next meeting, or?
Yeah, if we can do that, yeah. Because I'd like to close this.
Fine. Yes, good.
What did you mean by, you said to do an upgrade, you know, this year, and then?
No, I didn't say this. I didn't say an upgrade, and I didn't say this year. A financial plan that includes a capital outlay for whatever it is. which could be an upgrade, it could be a brand new mini version of that, it could be nothing. But we need to understand what that is, and you won't understand what that is until you've done a consultation of the residents in the area, you know, which is going to your statistical part. It would be better if, no offence, Yvonne, but it would be better if the town clerk did that, because it takes any whiff of political,
Absolutely.
you know, I'm sure you prefer it as well. You know, so that's critical before you can put in the financial plan, because you don't know what you want to do.
May I ask Kevin, how long would you expect it would take Reading to put together a new lease? Because, you know, we need to have that in place before we start doing anything.
Yeah, I need to have a conversation with them
6
about
months.
it. I think if I can get a commitment in the first instance that's the way that it would go. I don't think that the committee would be committing to anything until you've seen the terms of that lease anyway. And that would be for full council to decide. But I can make those inquiries in the first instance and see what is.
But the point of a new lease, we've got until 2031. To me, the higher priority is to work out what you want to do and that financial plan. Whether the fact that we haven't extended it this year or next year or whatever is, to me, academic, because it's not critical. That financial plan is not critical in extending the lease. I think one comes before the other.
I think we would all agree that, you know, it's not a great playground now, and we want it to be better sooner rather than later.
But should we not find out how many houses Reading actually now?
That doesn't matter, they're all Woodley residents.
Might I suggest we leave the consultation, details, etc.
They're
to
Woodley
Kevin.
residents, they pay Woodley Town Council tax, yeah, they are our people.
Right? So that was my proposal. Yeah, anybody want to do you want to paraphrase it?
I've captured it.
You captured it, okay. All those in favour for I need a seconder, please, for my proposal. All those in favour, please show. That's unanimous. Thank you. You got some more work to do.
That's fine.
And aside of that, did we ever do fund matching? So if the public felt really strongly about something and raised some funds, would we ever fund match? Is it not something we've ever done?
Haven't, no.
Well, it's a possibility.
But that's not guaranteed, where it's a budget.
I know that, absolutely.
But it's a good, we should be looking at that avenue for lots of things. That's a good point.
Do you look for grants that we do?
Yeah, I was going to say there are pots of money that can be available for community groups, for example, residents groups and things like that might not be available to the town council.
It might be because the House 5 area is one of the more deprived areas in the borough, so we may qualify for play area in that area.
It's a Berkshire impact area, so there will be some.
Okay, so good. Thank you, Yvonne.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for all your efforts. I hope you're sort of, I won't say happy, but we're okay with the way forward.
Yeah, I mean, as a lot of people have pointed out, hopefully we're not just kicking the can down the road again, and it will actually come to something. And it's good to hear, you know, my fellow councillors who are in support.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. So we'll now move on to the CCTV one, which is page 68, item 14. And
Okay, so again.
just before you,
Sorry,
yeah, can I welcome Alex? He's here to put a particular, got a particular point of view about some issues he has, where he believes the CCTV could be helpful. I have spoken to him before. I'll do exactly the same with you that I did with Yvonne. We'll have a discussion debate within the committee, and I'll allow you to come in at the end. But just to paraphrase, the request that Alex is putting in is that the CCTV is extended into the library area and Headley Road car park, because there is examples of antisocial behaviour. I've just pointed out that that is not owned by the town council. And the borough council have already got quite an extensive CCTV in what we call the Waitrose, the Crockenwell Road car park. And I don't understand why they didn't extend it into Headley Road, so they really should be doing that. And the second thing is that the council should be, a committee should be aware that we were promised £15,000 from working in borough council. Former borough councillor got that in a public full council meeting. The leader of the council committed in that full council meeting. It's documented, minuted, and guess what? We've got no money from them whatsoever, despite Kevin chasing and chasing and chasing. So we can't hold this project up anymore. We have to go forward. We're in a very good position that we don't need that £15,000, all right, to go ahead, which I want to push hard so that we do go ahead and get that up and running. And if necessary, and I've said to Alex, please work on our behalf to the town council, to the leader, sort of saying, don't need your 15,000, but use your 15,000 to put in the CCTV at the library and Headley Road. So having set the scene, over to you, Kevin.
Thank you, Chair. So just in summary, the Woodley Town Centre Partnership and Brian Fenley is the Town Centre Manager, been developing a project to look at the potential for CCTV in the town centre for some time. The council received £15,000 of grant funding from Thames Valley Police specifically for this purpose, and the council has carried out a tendering process and established the costs of the system. The project can be delivered within the £15,000 of grant funding received. In terms of the system itself, it would consist of wireless cameras mounted on lamp columns in the town centre, all linked to a hard drive in the open sector. The system will provide for remote viewing for the police as requested, and would only otherwise be accessible by the town centre manager and myself, and that under a revised CCTV policy that takes account specifically of that system. Coverage of the system itself and the cameras is shown in Appendix A on pages 70 to 74, and you can see there that the aim was to cover obviously all the main areas of the precinct, but also those side roads and angles coming in, and that's been mapped out across those 6 cameras of different types. The missing part of the puzzle with this project is actually approval from this committee to proceed with the project. The recommendation on page 69 is for that approval and for use of the grant funding that we received from the police in order to fund it.
Quick question before I go to the floor. Putting it on the lamppost, have we got approval from WBC to do that?
Yes, and it needs to submit the detail of that, but they should.
Right, to the floor. Hopefully we won't need to spend too much time.
To be quite clear, this is a recording system, isn't it? Nobody's going to be watching it. So when someone gets mugged in the precinct at night, it's not going to trigger a response.
No, it would be.
Not that that's a common thing in Woodley.
No, so it won't be monitored in real time unless there is some intelligence to suggest that there's something happening and the police request that. They then have
can the
access
police
to
switch it on and what they live?
Yeah.
Good. I know you talked about the library car park, but clearly Library Walk is an area I would have expected the cameras to be. None of them seem to be pointing down and include that.
The parade.
It's the library parade, yes. Library parade. And it's a busy area, Little and those shops going down there.
Can I ask what happened to I seem to remember vaguely that Brian was going to apply with the shop owners for some scheme whereby they got together, collaborated and...
Yeah, and there was a request originally that came here for some funding towards a scheme which had been posted in one of the shops which had a number of issues about the way that would have been put together. Subsequent to that, the funding, the grant funding from the Thames Valley Police.
So the other one's been
shelved. Yeah,
But this-
because this money is specifically for the CCTV.
And the businesses were not enamored, because they were being charged.
That's where I was going with this,
But the reality is that they have a very active WhatsApp group.
Yes, indeed.
Which I'm on and I see all the time. And the communication between the shops, particularly around shoplifters,
Yeah, it's very good.
is happening all the time. Brilliant. It
And I
makes it
wonder
that
how
good enough.
much this will, I mean, we might as well do it because it's 15K and it's not our money and why wouldn't you? But I'm not sure this is going to enhance anything really, is it? Because, you know, what are you going to do? What, somebody's going to phone you up and say there was a kid on a scooter going through the precinct, we want to try and find them. Well, that's not easy from old footage, is it? You know, unless it's live information.
But the police do not have any use any live information. What they do, and if you talk to them, they do make a good case for it. They say, what we do is we use that data and pull it together. So to use your example, somebody on a scooter doing something dangerously or whatever, they'll look at that and they'll look at other footage, see how many times did that happen.
But they're not
And then-
going to know, are they? Unless somebody says, on Tuesday, this happened, they're not going to sit and watch.
Well, absolutely. Well, the police won't do anything until someone reports on it.
It's the same for any crime. That's the same for any crime.
Yeah,
Yes, I appreciate that.
so they will use that.
That's what I'm saying, I'm not sure it's terribly valuable.
So the data would be used to say, this is an issue, so we ought to do something about it. They can actually do face recognition potentially, or
I'd like to think not.
the police, I'm sure they can, but anyway. Yeah, but they've been,
These aren't sophisticated to do facial recognition. We had that presentation. There's no way that these
you
cameras.
haven't had a presentation from any of these suppliers.
It was a different one, because the ones we had, neither of them could do facial
I know,
recognition.
no, these are, that was pre-tendering.
Okay.
We went out probably,
So can they do facial?
I don't know, I haven't seen the tenders.
Footage goes to the police, they can put it into their own IT and do facial representation.
They're HD cameras, so they're very good resolution.
I think the action there is.
Yeah. If the recommendation is that it's 15K and we'll just do it, then let's just do it.
Any,
So with the disc system that we've now got for free in all of the
Yeah.
shops,
they're not using.
when they're reporting something, they can, at a time, and they can use this, they can put it together with the footage from our. Yeah.
But a lot of the major companies or retailers already have their own CCTV, which they use. Not to very huge success sometimes, the police have not
But
acted.
they can only use it in
Anyway,
their own shops, can't they?
Yes.
So how does
no, they'll have, I think there are some looking at entrances.
well, yeah, but on their own land, they can't
Yes.
film the public, whereas I presume
This is
the reason we can
supplementary.
film it is this is outside the GDPR that affects the shops cameras. Is that right?
Yeah, so you have to have appropriate signage up, and obviously you have to have a policy about who can view that.
I think the biggest thing is having loads of signage up saying you're being watched. You know, don't risk it. You know, you're being watched, the police are gonna look at it, you're gonna get nicked. Because cameras are much more deterrent
Yes.
than solving crimes.
Sorry, Robert, your turn.
Thanks, Keith. I'm aware we've got a heck of a lot to get through and we've almost been an hour. Alison just said the cameras are a deterrent. They're also a perception of safety. So people in the precinct will also feel safe because those cameras are there. Let us spend this £15,000 and get this system in. And I agree with Alex's comments that he hasn't made yet, that we should have cameras covering the Liddell Headley Road car park and Library Walk. And let's go ahead with that when he has got the £15,000 from Wokingham Borough Council.
Over to you, Alex. And on that note, I think we've got a general consensus. We've got lots of stuff. I'm going to allow Alex to do some final comments, just one off. Go on.
Yeah, so I think the first thing was echo what Robert said. I think anecdotally, I kind of have a lot of sympathy with what you said, Juliet, and I'm kind of thinking back to, because it was only a couple of years ago that I was in the same position as these young people going on electric scooters. And I don't think just seeing CCTV up there would particularly prevent me from doing that kind of stuff. So I agree with what you're saying anecdotally, but ultimately, the Police and Crime Commissioner has sanctioned this money. So essentially, people that know more about this than all of us have decided that it's a worthwhile investment. So I'm kind of happy to take their word for it. The funds not being handed over is very poor, and I will try and look into that. Could I just ask, I don't know if anybody knows, how much, is it 15,000 for all 6 cameras? Or how much are those 6 cameras going to cost? Is it exactly 15,000?
No, it's below 15,000.
Could I ask how much by?
I can't tell you that per camera at this point, but going forwards and once contract. If you were after
at the moment, that is commercial sensitivity.
Okay, fine.
And until we make the decision.
That's fine. But the reason I ask is because there may be leftover money to be able to extend into the little car park and also whatever location Alison was mentioning. So it seems like there are other places that could be involved in a sort of wave 2 of CCTV rollout. And I appreciate it's not town council over Newbury's precinct. So I think for me, this is just an issue of speed. I have a feeling that if we go via the Wokingham Borough route, it will take a lot longer. And yes, it means we're not dipping out of this reserve, but we're ultimately still dipping out of council taxpayers' reserve. So it's really the same money anyway. I'll
carry on.
I feel like certainly if you already have the money left over, which it seems like we do, then we should try and roll that out as quickly as possible rather than going through the borough council, which I think will be a lot slower. And just to kind of raise the issues, the reason why I would like one of the little car park, there's 2 main things. The first is fly tipping by the glass recycle bins. They do now have CCTV up there, but they're having issues with it. So maybe that just needs replacing from the borough council, but that's probably a different issue. But the main thing is the antisocial behaviour that happens in the library. So a couple of weeks ago, when I was in there, I was told that a group of 8 14-year-olds, all wearing sort of balaclavas, went and egged it, and it was quite unsettling for the staff, obviously, because they kind of all showed and they were all pelting eggs at the glass. And eventually they called the police weren't able to do anything quick enough, and all of the teenagers had run off. And apparently they also regularly turn up and then vape in there, play loud music, all of the stuff that you would, I suppose, expect. There isn't really anything that the staff are able to do about it because they're already understaffed and they don't they don't have the resources to be able to remove them. They don't have security there, right? So one of the things that they found that is quite useful is kind of getting some of the photos and sending them to schools, which is something that if you had CCTV there permanently, you could do that quite easily. No, it's not a GDPR if it's antisocial behaviour, if it's an alleged crime, then you are allowed to.
So I want to thank you very much, Alex. I'm going to let Alison have the final say. So that means my final say is if there is any money left over, right, from this, and I don't know because I haven't seen the figures, if there is, that will be put in a reserve to cover things like maintenance. Plus, more importantly, we don't know how well this is going to work. So 6 cameras may not be sufficient. So if there's extra money as a reserve, we might want to say, we've now tried it for 12 months, and the police have tried it for 12 months. It's actually not working as well as we like, but we could improve it by putting in another two cameras or 4 cameras. And that money would be reserved to go into the precinct, not into the library, which is the sole responsibility. I can't say it often enough, you know this. It's the responsibility of Wokingham Borough. It's like us saying, you know what, the Open Centre has just been egged. Wokingham Borough, can you pay for CCTV in there? They won't. Quite rightly, they won't, because it's not their property. Final word, Alison.
As Keith rightly points out, the library car park, the library are Wokingham Borough Council. They already agreed to give £15,000 of CCTV funding for the town centre. I think that Labour and Conservative borough councillors, I don't want to be political, but we could come together, put forward a motion for next council meeting, asking them, they've already allocated that in their budget. We would like them to use it for that. I don't know, I think we would get full support, so can we talk about that later?
Yeah.
And if you do that, can you put a time limit on it within 6 months? Because
Yeah.
Oh,
sorry, when you said it was budgeted,
well, if at the meeting it was passed by members, £15,000 would be given. That £15,000 being ring fenced for Woodley Town Centre CCTV, so it is there.
And the leader agreed with it.
Yeah.
I was a councillor then, so that's over 12 months, isn't it? Yeah. Right, I'm going to draw this to a close. Let's go to the vote. We've got 2 items that note the content of the report, and we approve the project to install the TV. All those in favour, please show.
That's all 7.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Alex. Thank you. Right, we need to push on quickly now. The next section is finance, pages 8 and 10, 8 to 10.
Excuse me. Just very quickly, there's not a massive amount to report here, just a couple of points to note. Sorry, shall we move? Both income and expenditure are where we would expect to see. The one thing to note is obviously we're still benefiting quite nicely from the CCLA funds at the moment, which is helping us there. And I could sense room hire income, which was looked slightly skewed at the last meeting. I did explain we were waiting for some money to come in, and that's squared up now. It's now tracking above the budget.
Any questions? Otherwise, just no. Thank you very much. Moving swiftly on, payments. Page 10.
Yeah, okay. I just, in the interest of time, I just ask about Cloudy Group, which I think is a new thing, isn't it?
Yeah, they are our new IT support.
Sorry, page 10, but also elsewhere. Page 10, about a third of the way down. What's the first question for about?
7th of August.
We haven't asked the same question about this thing.
Sorry?
Never mind, there's one. Talk later.
This is
On 7th of August, right. You've answered it.
Yes, sorry.
Sorry, could you just say what Cloudy Group are doing?
They are our new IT provider. So they provided service for our entirely new cloud server. There's new hardware in there as well and support, and basically they've taken over the whole thing.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Right. So that was just a note. C. Yeah.
I don't understand why we're looking at so old, like between the 1st of August and the 31st of August. Is that since we had the last meeting?
We had an emergency meeting, didn't we?
Oh, makes sense.
We did have the August figures finalised by the time that.
Oh, I see. Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Item C, internal audit, page 16 is.
Just to note on the internal audits, there are three items on page 25 which the internal auditor had singled out for our attention. One of those was to do with our finance manager retiring, so our RFO retiring in June next year, and the requirements to put some measures in place to ensure that our processes and procedures don't fall over through that. We are putting that in place, and we're spending some time week in and week out going forwards, so that we can pick up those crucial elements, because it's quite a big job, and we've been doing that job for a very long time, so we are very conscious of that. There's a comment there about a remote link to the Woodford Park Leisure Centre system, which is being dealt with by our IT provider now that they've taken over the network, so that's being dealt with as a priority. And there's a comment about direct
debit card payments in our financial regulations. That's been amended for clarity in the review of the financial regs later on in this agenda.
Yeah, actually, on the subject of the direct debits, I wasn't clear whether you have to have two approvals for them or not.
Yeah, sorry, that wasn't to do, it was debit card rather than direct debits.
Oh,
But yeah,
sorry.
wherever the council has direct debit, that mandate has to be approved by two councils.
Oh, right. Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
Can I just ask a question about the iPhone? I'm sorry, my knee's quite painful and I might have zoned out in the middle of that. Are you going to replace them or are you just going to carve up the job amongst existing staff?
No, it's very definitely.
It's statutory rather than you're going to replace it.
Yeah.
So can I just ask that we make sure that when we do go out to recruitment, we've got a bit of a decent handover period?
Yeah, we're looking at the timescale for that now and what that's going to be.
Am I thinking you're volunteering for some assistance on that?
Well, if they want the help, I'm happy to help, but
Thank you.
I guess it'll come through personnel anyway, so, yeah.
Any other questions? Anne?
Well, I'm assuming that we're carrying on through this accounting report. On page 23, standing sales data should all be checked, blah, blah, blah. This review should be evidence retained. Is this a difficult thing to do? Or you were talking about getting some new systems, an IT system, so.
Sorry, yeah, that was also to do with the remote access for the finance officer to be able to dial into the system to check it.
Right.
So that'll be rectified.
So it's in progress.
Yeah.
Okay. And on page 25, there's a council response. I know that, actually, you've just explained about.
Yeah, those are the three I just spoke about.
Yeah, okay, thank you.
All right.
Yeah.
Moving on. The CCLM SDF funds, item 2, page D, page 26, still looking quite healthy, I think.
Yeah, again, just a moment, it's nice.
Any questions, comments? Can we move on? Yep, thank you very much. 6, Oakwood Centre income update. A and B, do you want to cover two together?
Yeah.
Page 27, 28.
Just to note, pages 27 and 28 on the charts there, and actually, as I just mentioned, the room hire income is tracking above budget. It looked a little low last time, which was to do with a lag in some income coming in on room hire. So that's now back where we would see it.
Any questions on that? Adrian? Page 20.
Yeah, I think that shows figures up to the end of August, which is when the previous operator contract ended. Figures for the new catering will show there from February in accordance with the terms of the contract.
Okay.
Sense that it's going well?
Yes.
That's good.
Well, I've seen a lot of feedback, good feedback.
Yeah, no, I've seen good feedback, but it's hard to tell when you really pop in now and then.
Yeah.
And I saw the note from Crumbs on Facebook that they're moving their comedy show to the Oakwood Centre.
At the last full council meeting, a councillor raised the point about a noisy coffee machine. Kevin, were you able to investigate that?
Yeah, we did have a conversation about it. I'm not aware that it's been a problem since then. No other complaints.
Ed mentioned, no, it was.
I've been there recently, there wasn't any noise.
Okay, so then moving on to item 7 to receive the report.
Just a quick question and pass a comment
On the report.
on the report.
You can pass a comment. I'm not a question. You know, I wasn't there, so.
You can try.
I was just going to ask about the clock on page 30. If there's been any progress.
Not that I'm aware of, I don't know.
The comment I was going to make was about the item number 10 on it. It came to the Wokingham Borough Council Planning Committee, and I voted against it, and the committee voted against it on the basis of clutter. So I was quite proud to defend Woodley from having more street clutter
are people
Well done.
who are partially sighted and disabled people having to negotiate.
And also, I question, I don't think it's Domino's. I think it's an external company.
Yeah.
So that's a mistake. And also, which I will feed back to Brian. I did send my apologies and it's not, but I'll talk to Brian on that.
Who are the town council reps and the borough council reps on this committee? Because it's not quite clear from the attendance.
So from memory, town council reps are myself and Mary. And we had this, didn't we, before? The voting, when the reps were allocated or voted on, I wasn't actually at that meeting because I was no longer a councillor. And I think Majid was one.
On the borough.
From the borough.
Yeah.
And I know, Greg, you weren't.
No, I wasn't. So I don't.
But there's two, isn't there?
Yeah, there were.
So it would be.
Well, I'm only aware of Majid being.
Is Beth on it or Carol?
No, I think because Majid the substitute.
But for the town, you're the substitute, aren't you? But for the borough, who's?
The borough, can we find out, please?
Yeah.
Because initially you thought you were on it and then I checked up on the minutes and you weren't, and
that's right.
It's a bit of a dog's dinner, not because of your.
No. I attend as a Woodley Town Councillor out of general interest.
Yes, no, that's fine. Anyway.
Yeah.
Beth, can you remember?
Isn't it Beth?
We can provide some clarification to members about that, and also I think we can
I think
change
it's
the
Carol,
format of the
so
minutes.
I think, I don't know, Catherine, Beth's been there, hasn't she?
Anyway, it's not, it's not our meeting, it's not our minutes, so very quick, please.
Yeah, I just wondered if there's any complication with the electricity, because weren't some of the CCTV cameras going to be placed on the clock? That's what it looked like to me.
That's true.
And there's a standing charge.
There's unmetered supply charges, so there doesn't. It's kind of a formula rather than actual usage. So in terms of power supply, it would be negligible. We've got some work to do on the account for that supply anyway. To renew that account and get onto a better account. And
we've closed off the CCTV, so we need to keep going.
Yeah.
But your point is well raised, and Kevin's made a note of it. Thank you. So moving on, capital project schedule, item 8, page 31.
Just very quickly to note, those are the existing capital programme projects that have not yet been completed. The recycling bins are going in over this winter period. King's Orchard Garden is well underway, the trees are planted, and the rest of that will happen over the winter, as will those other projects. The notice boards one has been delayed due to capacity issue within the team. Those kitchens are happening as we speak. I know the amenities manager bought the equipment for those this week, so it's happening.
What about the netting?
Part of that has been done, and I think we're waiting for some of the other stuff. So I think the netting's done, but some of the pitch improvement works.
Any other questions? King's Orchard Garden, feeling fruity, reached out, said they can help.
I have,
Can we make sure we link with them?
I have responded. Yeah.
Because they are really good. And they, you could actually even save some money in the sense of they'll provide the trees.
Well, we're already further on in that project and have bought more mature trees so that project is more ready to go. But I have contacted them, offered to talk to them about another site, which I'd like to talk to them about.
They are a superb organisation.
Yeah.
Really, really good. Okay. Next, item 9, standing orders. Page 32. Note the minutes there. Right, there is a recommendation which are actually pulled forward, which is 1 and 2 on the blue. Oh, there. So we have to consider that the revised standing orders updated in line with the recommended changes set out in Appendix A to be approved. That's page 35. Any questions, comments?
Sorry.
Okay.
In the issue 1, when you say stipulated in the relevant committee's terms of reference, a substitute member may be formally appointed. Would they be named? I mean.
Yes.
Yes.
Yes, like they are now. So if you take the Bullmush, what's it? The Bullmush SULV, that has a substitute.
Yes.
And the reason why this is in there is we've never had a formal way of how do you vote in a substitute. It's easy when you've got 2 places and you vote for 2 people, but how do you vote for a substitute? And this is actually documenting now properly the formality of how to do that. It's what we've done in the past, but it's just now.
I just wondered, it didn't stipulate a named person, so I just, yeah.
Okay, if there's no other comments, then we move on to the second point. Code of conduct. Code of conduct. Yeah.
That's, oh, you mean the update? Was that after this meeting? That was probably after the meeting that we discussed that, yeah, so.
Okay, that's fine.
That'll come to the next.
Right, okay, no problem, you can forget what I've just said. So then we move on to the other recommendation, which is item 2, it's the financial regulation. I know you've pored over this and you know it by heart. The updated is on it's the whole thing, 36 to 39. And Matthew has actually been kind enough to highlight in red changes. Good. Do we have any questions?
Can I just add something on item 3?
Yeah.
You're doing 2 first.
I'm going to do 1 and 2 first. Okay. All those in favour of accepting?
Sorry, can I just ask, single tender waivers? Usually single tender waivers. Because 60k ain't much.
We've gone with a figure that a lot of councils have gone with a higher figure than we used to have. We used to do everything at 25, which just wasn't enough.
Okay.
I'm cautious with anything when we get above 60,000 in terms of our processes. It's not that onerous when we get to a project of that size, and my recommendation is that we continue to go through that full process when we get up to that threshold.
Okay. So I'd like to vote on 1 and 2 together. All those in favour, please show. 1 and 2.
1 and
2. Page 3, 1 and 2.
of the financial.
No, if you go back to page 3, go back to page 3. Page 3.
Yeah.
Agenda.
It's a standing order.
Oh, I see. Okay, sorry, I was keeping it. Yeah.
Matthew is trying to be helpful. He's brought all the recommendations into the main agenda. So all those in favour, show.
That's
Thank
everyone.
you very much. So we now move on to item 3.
Yes, just note item 3 there, which wasn't discussed at that meeting, but was added in. This is the regulation. This was a regulation that the internal auditor was unclear, and actually was unclear, so we've changed it for clarity, which was our payments from the interest accounts are managed. So nothing's actually changed. It's just a clarification because it was which are attached to the interest account. Clarification.
So just to be clear, this was something that our internal auditor asked us to do.
Okay.
We're doing it, it's just clarifying.
Yeah, it was the wording wasn't clear about the interest account, and it inferred that it included debit card payments, which doesn't. That's separate in the regulations.
So can I go to the vote on this one, please? All those in favour, please show.
Everyone, thank you.
And item B is to note the Councillor Nagra is standing down on the standing orders. Councillor Taylor is taking his place, sorry. And can I say, Majid, thank you for all the work. Been hard going sometime, but you've raised a lot of really good points and good discussions. So thank you for your service in the past. June's got a hard act to follow. Thank you. Right, item 10, community grants, page 56. All right. So We have all the data there. These community grants are within the budget and individual grants are within, correct?
No, so obviously the total budget for this year is £3,000 and in April financial year.
Oh, I got it. I've read it.
Yeah,
Thank you. 510. Right. How do you want to do this, guys? Girls?
Go through each one. Has anybody got any objections to any of them?
No.
So, well, I want to ask a question about the event for Crumbs, because I was expecting to see that these were going to be children who perhaps, whose parents wouldn't be able to take them to a Santa event, because, you know, 10 quid, you know, it's all extra money. But I can't see anywhere that explains which children would be invited to this event.
Children won't be invited, they'll be able to, parents will be able to book a place. There's no way, so in the past, what Crumbs have done is Crumbs out of their own funding have gone and bought presents and had a Santa turn up at their cafe here in Woodley, and they've just had streams of parents turn up and use that opportunity when they moved here.
Well, I'd be in favour of this if these children were being recommended from the cowshed or something. But just a free event for 120 children whose parents have got the sharpest elbows to book a free ticket quick. I don't.
I think this is a really good opportunity to work with one of our family charities, something like Lunch Bunch, that know, you know, the 140 most vulnerable families, and what a lovely thing to do for them.
Yeah.
Or the schools know which children are on free school meals. So it's not difficult to identify families.
Can I make a proposal that we say yes to the 250 as long as they do it and prioritise? Because if we can get.
I'm not prioritising. I want all 120 to be children who would not. No way.
Sorry, listen, that's what I meant. Prioritise. So if, for instance, if Lunch Bunch nominate 140 people or 150 children, then they. That they get the priority.
Lunch Bunch. Best one to.
Well, we've supported in the past, so it's a charity that we believe in, isn't it?
Yeah, they're our partners, aren't they?
I'm sure Crumbs will have no.
But they have already advertised this.
Yes, it's already advertised. They've already got a QR code out. There's a ticketing system set up where people will go and register. That's already live.
So it's already live, so we can't do this.
No,
well, not selling. No, it's free.
Yeah. So could we find out how many have gone?
I can find out for you now.
Because if there's loads gone, then.
Yeah.
Why are we subsidising this?
Yeah, it's a good point.
I mean, you know, the waterside could be putting on a Santa experience, but they wouldn't expect us to subsidise it.
I think we.
So what did you say, Matthew? I didn't catch that.
40 out of the 120 spaces.
So if we can tomorrow get that message to them and they stop until we do that. And in terms of why are we doing this? Well, probably precisely the same reason why we all had that extensive discussion about Weevil Park. Because there are children who are.
But I think Alison's comment is right, because they did this last year at their own cost. I mean, they're chancing their arm getting 350 quid out of this, and that's absolutely fine because they're our partners now, and we're working with them. But if they're our partners, then they work with us and do this for the greater good of the people of Woodley rather than.
I mean, I'm sure they'd like to get parents who'll go back and spend lots of money, and the parents that we want to go won't. But
So
that's the point. That's
problem is,
why we give grants.
we work to a timetable and this couldn't come in any earlier. I've got Robert and then Beth. Robert? You're on mute.
I'm completely against this. I think Crumbs is a commercial business. I wouldn't say they were our partners. I would say they were our tenants. I think I would rather spend £350 going to Lunch Bunch to benefit local children rather than to this. And I think it's too late in the day for us to dictate to them that we will only give you £350 if you allocate all those spaces to disadvantaged children. So I'm completely against giving them this money.
Right.
Can I just say that when I said they're our partners, I meant Lunch Bunch. Yeah.
Beth, And then you're next.
Clarifying,
Beth,
I 100% agree with what Robert's just said. There's no way they can ask parents to prove that they're on free school meals because there isn't such a piece of paper that's held by the parents. It's just too difficult to do and too divisive. I think we shouldn't be giving them money. They're a commercial company. I agree. Lunch Bunch could handle it much better. They've got all the details because they deliver to the free school meals people in school holidays.
Alison, no, sorry, but we haven't.
yeah, sorry, I just wanted to make a point of personal clarification that when I said they're our partners, I meant the Lunch Bunch, our community partners that we've worked with in the past and we should continue to do so.
So am I sensing that we want to turn this down?
I don't want to turn it down, so I think it's an opportunity to.
So, all right, well, so, okay, I'm going to go to the vote. Although,
Can I just say one thing? Considering 40 tickets have already gone, can we say that they should reserve half of their places for more vulnerable children?
I'd go 100% what's left.
I'd give it 100% what's less. All it requires
If
is
they want
somebody
this money,
take the QR code down.
but the thing is, if they want this money, that's what they've got to do.
And call
If they don't, they continue it. All right. But
How
so-
are they going to know who's vulnerable?
Because we do it through Juliet Sheriff's Lunch Bunch, she'll provide them with a list of people.
Yes.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Sorry, I didn't understand that, Juliet. Yeah.
So I'm going to go to the vote. All right. All those in favour of agreeing this grant, subject to what 100% what's left goes to the Lunch Bunch families recommendations. All those in favour of that, please show.
And we don't know how many are left. There might be 20 left.
No, we've just got it. No, he's got the figures just now.
I mean,
That's
that's
live.
Please, let's come to order. We are going to the vote. All those in favour of what's been said, please show.
6-4.
And I'm abstaining.
You're abstaining, okay.
All right. And please, clearly, you've got a link with Juliet.
Yeah, all we need to do.
Why isn't-
Is get them to take the QR code.
Right. Why isn't Lunch Bunch applying for a grant like this themselves?
Because they applied for one of the other grants. They didn't apply for the 350, they applied for the
Oh,
lunch.
for the bigger one. Okay, well, that makes sense. That makes sense. All right. Woodley adopt a street project? Any issues with that one? No?
But just as a caveat, I was here for the week last week, working with WASPs. And Sheila is running that thing completely single-handed. She's fine, she's fit, she's well. When she falls over, it will die.
Yeah.
So we need to help her gather, and she hasn't got the mental time at the minute to do it, but we need to try and put a little subcommittee around her so that we keep that sustainable next year. And I know Kieran is doing some work for her, and thank you so much for doing that, but we need to make it more robust, otherwise that's going to die.
So can we put out a call to all town councillors and borough councillors, Woodley town and borough councillors, to say, Sheila needs help. Most of us know Sheila very, very well.
And she's happy for us to help her. She wants to be in charge, and I completely understand that. But I think if we can just work with her to try and manage this in the next coming couple of years, it will be really helpful for her. But I'm completely supportive of that.
Okay, so the WASP one, I think we're all okay. Yeah. Job support, we rejected it the last 2 years. I think we rejected it because there wasn't enough.
It's only 12 broadly.
On that basis, it's still the same.
Yeah.
To me,
Woodley residents tend to go to Reading. Job support.
Yeah.
That's it then.
Can't get bus to Woking, can you?
No.
So, I've got a feel that we don't want to do that one. All right.
Unless, of course, they would be prepared to come out from their office and run something in the Oakwood once Blue Moon.
Well, what we can do what we can do is when we go, hopefully, I think we do that, I do this all the time, is when we go back to someone to say, sorry, your application's been refused. we tell them why.
Perfect.
In order to do this, you need to, and we probably did it last time and the time before, and they haven't taken the notice. Woodley Schools cluster. I have personally experienced this work, particularly the cakes.
Bake Off, I knew you'd say that.
The Bake Off, but they do so many other good things. And I've forgotten what her name is now, who runs it, Jackie. I hope she remains for a long time, but she's brilliant. And it is actually fantastic. And they do raise money to do it as well. It's in essence of working in Borough Council.
It doesn't cover the
project, but it doesn't cover the cost. And I think it would be a tragedy for this to stop. Alison?
I know they said the total cost is expecting to exceed 350, and they're only asking for 250. I know in the past we have sometimes said, well, let's give them more than they've applied for.
350.
Yeah, can we give them 350, Keith?
Yeah, it's a typo.
It's a typo on that, it should be 350.
Can't get this.
Oh, okay.
Take that 100 out of the equation.
Sorry, just to say there's a slight contradiction there to me. The total cost of the project is expected to be approximately £311.20. And over here it says couple projects expect to exceed 350. So those two
That's
figures.
lifted from their application itself. At the same time, when they wrote this application, they hadn't got the cost for a Climate Action Week project they ran last week with Year 3s as well, which actually pushed that cost over that as well.
Oh, right.
And generally what they tend to do is they use the money that they're given to fund it, and they're very frugal with that, and they have to kind of beg, borrow and steal everything else. So.
A question we should to Jackie. I don't know whether this happened, I can't remember. I think they do, but recognition should be given to the town council. Because without the town...
We always get invited, we get to award the prizes, they always say, thank you for sponsoring.
Yes, I know, I think I was remembering.
Yeah, no, they're very good about that.
I haven't had my invitation yet, but it's early.
They've just done an archaeology one. Really good.
Okay, so we've got that one done. Woodley United, 350. No football sessions. Any issues there?
They're still doing good.
They're doing a great job, actually. Okay. Oh, individual grants, I see we've removed the names, which is good. Person A and person B. Marathon racing. Okay. Any issues with either of those?
No.
I'd love to give them more.
Yeah.
Is that the maximum we can give them?
Yes, it is in that individual.
It's the amount in the, you'd have to have a vote to give them more money. Someone would have to propose and second it, but that is the amount that's in the guidelines.
Oh, we're saving some money by refusing them, aren't we?
And
Can we not please them?
your previous grant awards last 10 years, because of the nature of its individual, you generally will never have people repeat. Because it's usually for one-off to fund me to go to the European Challenge or help me get to the European Championship.
Have you given money to Kick Twist before?
We have not to this individual
Oh, okay.
application. We've given to them as a group before, and we've had other young people apply for very similar things over the years, but this individual hasn't had any previous funding.
We consider revising the guidelines another time.
We can certainly take away a review of individual.
Yeah, I know it came up earlier in the year and it was looked at the budget and the last 10 years of costs, and that was when this group then decided to increase the group ones from 250 to 350.
So we need to review.
Maintain the individuals at 100. That was considered 6 months ago, was it? I think it was about 6 months.
I think we need to review it, please. Okay, everyone okay for those two? Thank you very much. Moving on.
Sorry, can I just go back to the crumbs one? So if it was £350 for 120 children, are we going to give them pro rata the amount of tickets that we're going to give to lunch club families? Because we're not going to be subsidising, or we'll just leave it.
Just give it.
The cost of administering that would probably be...
I think we're being quite prescriptive as it is.
Okay. I'd just love to be able to give more to these.
Allotments rent review, item 11, page 61.
Are we going to vote then?
Well, I've just said, I've been saying, I'm getting the feeling everybody agrees. I haven't done a formal vote.
Okay.
Could put a formal vote, all those now doing it.
Everybody accept the job.
All those in favour, for the ones that have agreed, please show.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thank you.
Beth, unfortunately, you can't vote, I'm afraid. Right, allotments rent review. This is very mechanistic. And I'm not, we do lose money on this. It's sort of reducing slightly every year, but
It's always a bit up and down, but the long and short of it, if I can summarise, the recommendation follows the established process of increasing the rate per poll by the RPI figure from the preceding September preceding the meeting. In this case, that was 2.7% for September in 2024. It's recommended that the water charge remain at the current level of 50 pence per poll. That did go up last year after being static for a while. But I believe this increase means that the cost of the plot does remain affordable, but recognises there is an increase in cost in managing the site. There is a comparison that we normally include on page 63 just to show charges of the councils more locally, so you can see we kind of sit well within that. Some are quite a lot higher than the one that's lower.
any,
It's just on page 61, I just wonder if the figures are correct in the table expenditure. It says lease 16,729. I'm just wondering if that is actually like for 2 years and total 30.
Right, yeah, it looks odd because that's exactly what happened. They didn't charge us for a period of time, so that's not, it's not the amount of the amount that's charged in that. So sorry, that had skewed the figure.
Right.
Absolutely.
okay. And is that a regular occurrence?
No, they just didn't bill us.
They've also got too much money. So the recommendations are on page 63. Can I vote for that? All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much.
It's still popular, Kevin, it's still waiting.
Yeah, we've still got 70 on the waiting list.
We got any,
staying at around that level.
have we got any derelict sites that we can work on?
There are some areas we're looking at to see if we can turn them into allotment use. There are some areas as well that are quite useful as a bit of a natural barrier and habitat. So, we've got the bees and things up there. We've got some areas that you can consider overgrown rather than allotment plots. But there are some sites, and Kieran's done a very good job. He's actually for the first time mapped out electronically the exact size of all the plots. We can see for the first time ever where they all are. So we're doing a bit of work on that to see where there's space, potentially have some others because we're not relying on it.
So in essence, we're saying the supply can't be really improved.
No, certainly not we're not going to get 70 more plots. We might get 10.
When a plot is vacant, does it go to a Woodley resident who's next on the list, or?
Yes, so
they get priority.
Yeah, and there is a clause within the lease through Reading Borough Council that a proportion of those are available for Reading residents, but that's actually a relatively small number of them.
And we've got no worries about them renewing the lease.
No, that was renewed quite very long
A couple of years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
10 years.
Right.
It's only to 28.
We've got 20 minutes before we need to extend the meeting. Council meeting dates, we need to vote on that. Let's not have any. Where are we?
64.
64.
64.
Yeah, we'll go in there. 63. Okay, there it is. Any pressing questions, or can we just, all those in favour, please show. Thank you. We've done agenda item 13, 14, on to 15, topic that I'm sure is close to Beth's heart, audio equipment, page 75.
I can summarise this one. So yeah, obviously, since we implemented AV equipment a few years ago to enable us to run meetings in a hybrid fashion. We have had a number of people, including members of the public, say that some meetings are very difficult to hear when people aren't enunciating clearly enough, even in a room as small as this. The 4 mic system that we've got in place here doesn't always pick everyone up brilliantly. It works relatively well in here, but it won't elsewhere. The system itself won't allow more than these 4 mics, so that is that solution. And in the larger room, we have our Nareva soundbar on the wall, which works as a digital mic, wireless mics throughout the room, which should pick up a space big enough for the room. But because of the acoustics in the room, because of the nature of the meetings, because of the way sometimes people are talking slightly over each other or don't enunciate and are a bit quieter than others, it can't cope with that room, so that system is not appropriate. So we've been out to several suppliers to find out what the appropriate solution is, and really the only appropriate solution to have clear audio quality for everyone is to have a single mic on desks that pick up everybody. We've done the cost analysis. The most expensive element is the mic unit itself, and obviously to have everyone at full council, so for those 5 meetings a year, is a very high cost. So our recommendation, if we are following this approach, would be to go for a 15-unit solution. There'd be an individual mic unit for every councillor at the majority of our meetings, the standing committees. But when it comes to full council, there'll be 1 mic per 2 councillors. The benefit of this system as well is also that the units themselves have speakers in them, which provide a slight amount of in-room amplification if anyone is hard of hearing in the room themselves. They can be turned on and turned off via a chairman's unit. Similarly, the audio feed will link to an audio loop style solution, which is included in the cost, which means anyone attending the meetings who has any sort of hearing impairment will be able to get a unit, an individual receiver on them, and be able to pick up the meeting, which meets obviously one of our requirements. It is quite a lot of money. I think it was raised earlier. We have looked at alternatives. Obviously the equipment that was put in first place was sort of nearly towards sort of £12,000 as it was. But really, to have clear individual sound for councillors, we're going to need those mics.
Couple of questions. Is there any second-hand value for old equipment?
Good point.
I have had a look online for the Nareva soundbar actually, and I think that has somewhere between 1 and 2 grand. So
we should look at that.
So if it is no longer in use, we can definitely look at.
And if there's other stuff that hasn't got a second-hand value, is there a charity that we can donate to use?
Yeah, we can definitely look at that.
And my other question is, if you're attending virtually, what is the improvement with this new proposed system to people like Beth and Robert and myself occasionally?
So essentially, the way this system is working is all of these 4 mics work together, and it will pick up one sound. So the mic nearest the sound will go on, picking up that person. As soon as Juliet speaks, that one will pick it up. Those 4 feed into one system, but it's one feed that then goes through onto there. This system will feed in every individual mic into one processor, and it can deal with all of those inputs at one time. That goes directly through onto the feed on there, and so the sound on there is clearer than the 4 mic system or the system in there.
Okay.
The sound's fantastic tonight, by the way. It's really good tonight. I can actually hear everybody.
Oh, good.
Pardon, Robert, what did you say?
For those familiar with the Borough Council, obviously the Borough Council will have the same sort of system in place, that sort of mic on the first that you turn on when you speak, you turn off when you speak. We've seen the company that actually, one of the companies that provides it has shown us examples of online recordings of meetings that use that exact equipment, and the audio quality is fantastic and of a good value.
And is this company then the same company?
We've had, because of the value, we will need to go out for tender.
Okay.
But the companies, basically, when we've gone out to companies, they have all suggested exactly the same unit. It's the right unit to use.
And is the microphone, the one between 2 for full council, is that unit mobile?
Yes.
So for instance, you could move it to an individual and move it.
The other benefit, the real benefit of this system is all of those units are wireless. So they can literally be twisted, pressed on for them. They've got very long 50-centimetre gooseneck mics, so they'll come close enough to you to pick up anyway, but it enables that very quick turn. So between two we believe that is, also the system could be retrofitted with larger, with more mics later date if you wished, but the way the processors work, you need extra processors, extra battery chargers as well for an increased number because of the number of work.
Can I just chip something in, sorry, Matt, which was just to, I know you did mention it, but not to understate the importance of that having a loop function to it, which we would otherwise need to do anyway. And we don't have one, in any of the meeting rooms, which is already an issue.
Alison?
The government's currently consulting on whether councils at all levels should be able to hold meetings with voting members remotely. Well, it will enable councils to decide if they want to go along that route. So that could be something in future that is going to be a lot more important, because it may enable more people to stand and be elected, because I know we're all frustrated that people with childcare or caring responsibilities can get their funding to do that, but this is the way they could be councillors. And yes, I completely agree that I really think we have to have some sort of working audio loop, because we've got a lot of people who are hard of hearing in our community, myself included. So it would be really good.
To also allow an individual headphone to be plugged into as well, so not just so for those who have particular hearing difficulties, they can plug in their own audio feeds.
So I think we're looking all the nods. So can I go to the vote? Just to say.
Keith, could I ask a question?
Oh, yes, Beth, go ahead.
Could they bring them in for the next council meeting to demonstrate them?
Because of the way the system works, because of the way it uses a wireless access point and all feeds in and has to be linked in, they don't have a test demo system. What we can do is we can send you a link to a council meeting elsewhere in the country that used exactly that equipment, and you can go and listen to it to satisfy yourself that we're not telling fibs, that the sound quality is better.
But remember, Beth, this has got to go out to tender. Right, and
so
you won't get that link until we've got somebody we've chosen through that tendering process. But I think it's good. But if we've done that, if the link doesn't work, we're in trouble anyway. So, Robert, quick.
Yeah, quickly. How much would it cost to put a hearing loop in if we didn't do this?
Don't have an actual cost for that. There are options for it. For a proper building loop, which we'd have to have through this building, it would be more than this. There are portable solutions which can be wheeled out within a room, but the logistics of it would be cobbled together, I think is probably the best term.
Have we got a ballpark figure?
The smaller units, you'd still need microphones, because you'd have to pass a microphone around unless you have an actual audio loop. So you're probably talking tens of thousands for an audio loop. But there are simpler systems which still require someone to speak into a microphone, so you'd have to pass a microphone around, basically, which is the problem.
So in the interest of time, I would like to put, unless there's any more burning questions, we put it to a vote, page 77. Note the contents and consider funding the purchase from the general. Should it be stronger than consider? Because consider to me, we might do it, we might not. Are we agreeing to do it?
And I think we're agreeing to do option one. I don't think we're agreeing to.
Yes. Option one. And so, if that's okay with members, I want to change that second one. The members agree to fund the purchase of AV equipment as per option one from the general reserved. Okay, all those in favour, please show.
7.
Thank you. Theatre refurbishment.
It's just come up 10-2, Chair decision.
Right, yes, 5-2, I'll do that. Theatre refurbishment project, item 16, page 78.
I'll try and briefly run through this. So this has been something that's kind of been on people's minds for a long time. The theatre is very underutilised space within the building. I think if you look at the occupancy rate in the middle of that report on page 78, it shows that, you know, over 50% of the time the theatre is empty. And if you take Woodley Theatre out of the equation, who were a very, very regular hire up until they ceased in December 2023, that reduces down to over 70%. We have filled the space with some extra hires and things, but it's not going to fill in the space of the theatre. The theatre itself, all the equipment in there is pretty much as it was when it was originally built 20 years ago. Some of that was second-hand at the time. We've obviously had issues with winches recently, condemned and having to get those replaced. And we've had a number of theatre installation companies come and visit to give us ideas of what they think of the space. And most of them will highlight that a lot of the equipment is becoming obsolete as we go along. What we're proposing here really as an initial stage is to give you a view of what potentially we could do with the space and get a consultancy in. We've spoken to 4 consultancies who've given us ideas of what they can do in terms of providing us with information and guidance as to what's best to use the space for, what equipment upgrades are needed. That became very clear early on when we were talking to installation companies. Lots of companies have lots of ideas of what you could have and how much you could have and what type of equipment's best. Even within those companies, there's a lots of discrepancies as to what people think. So what the proposal is that we can engage with a theatre consultant at this point who will come look around the theatre, spend some time doing some social engagement and consultancy work for us in the community and work out what Woodley needs in terms of a theatre and arts offering from that space that is there and readily available. I've given you approximate figures in there of the cost of upgrades. At the moment, it's massively indicative. Again, we had one company that said you could easily spend £500,000 in that space. So there are options there. And when it comes to kind of any final projects, what we spend, where that money comes from, we can look at. There's lots of grant pots for the arts. There's lots of grant pots like National Lottery grant funding as well. And there are lots of opportunities, and potentially what we do with the space might link very directly to what funding we can get from other grants. So, but at this stage, what we're asking for is agreement from the committee to approve funding of £5,525 to engage a specific theatre consultant that will come and do a piece of work for us, where they will undertake a review of the area, recommend what improvements we need, and do some community and social engagement work to ensure that what we're aiming to do in the space will give value for the public for that use of money. Following, you will remember that we had in September, Woking Borough Council came in and gave us details of their town centre strategy. And you may recall that in that document that they highlighted that a strong option for Woodley to encourage increased numbers of people coming into the town centre was to use the art spaces, use the theatre and centre stage. Off the back of that, I pushed them to see that if they think that from a centre strategy point of view, that's what we should be looking at doing, to see whether they put their hands in their pockets to be able to help fund any of this theatre work. At this stage, there has been an indication that they've been able to get funding from the SPF funding, so that's Shared Prosperity Fund, to cover this, because it covers community and social engagement and that sort of benefit side of things. So at the moment, we don't want that to hold up the work. So what we're asking for is for the committee to approve the funding. If we can get that from Woking, that we'll proceed with the money from Woking. But if Woking can't get that secured, that we would proceed with that money from the general reserve.
Right. Just before anybody speaks, I need to do this, please. As the business of the meeting has not been completed, or won't be completed by 10 p.m, in accordance with Standing Order 11.5A, I propose that the meeting continue until no later than 10:30 p.m. I need a seconder on that, please. Thank you very much. All those in favour, please show. Thank you. Carry on.
I finished. Does anyone have any questions on that at the moment?
How long do we wait to hear if Woking are going to fund it before we get on and fund it ourselves?
I think we've had an indication. We probably don't. We probably engage the company to do it and crack on. We're going to crack on with it, and if that money comes in, we can sort things out by the end of the financial year to ensure that happens. I don't want it to delay it based on a promise that might not come through. And I don't think it should delay it, because I think we need to do this work. If we don't do the work in the space, we have an empty space with some seats in it. And actually the opportunity for us to be able to get pouring kids theatre in, to use it as an independent cinema, to use it for things that we can go out and sell, not at the expense of the local amateur groups. It's really important that the time is protected for them as they use it now. But when that is vacant, if we can put on shows ourselves that raise money and get people into this building, then we don't want to delay that.
And we are currently investing £23,000 in new winches, so we want them used.
Exactly. Yes. Yes.
And we all need to remember that this is probably the biggest asset, apart from the leisure centre, it's the biggest asset this town council's got. And we really, there's a phrase, it's horrible, but you should be sweating that asset big time. And this has a benefit that if we do that, we're actually providing community events.
Absolutely.
You know,
there is only one commercially producing theatre in Woking Borough, which is the Mill at Sonning. It's the only one that is regularly putting on commercial theatre. A few amateur theatres. There are theatres based out of schools that amateur groups will hire and things, but no one's going out there going, where you can go. The Studio Theatre at Northern Farm regularly puts on shows during holidays for kids, whether they be Christmas shows, summer shows, Easter shows.
And that's not as good as our theatre.
And it's not as purpose-built, but
That's so some of the private schools have theatres like the Whitty Theatre in Woking. There's a big impact coming through, but there's now going to be VAT on charities hiring those theatres. So it's going to cost them 20% more. So you may look even more attractive.
I think the space, as someone who is and has been involved in theatre the majority of my life in one way or another, it is a purpose-built space, and there are very few of those around of that size. It will not be suitable for everything. It is under 100 seats. It will be very niche in terms of what you can bring in. But they're the sorts of things, and from a local community point of view, if our residents are trying to go to little theatre shows, they're going to be having to go into the centre of Reading, they're going to have to go into Maidenhead, they're going to have to go into Southwood Park and Bracknell. There's nothing in Wokingham that delivers that.
Yeah, I think what we'd be competing with is Reading Rec, which isn't very far from Woodley.
South Street is probably a similar sort.
Reading Rec's a bit smaller than
the Reading Rec put on very specific shows that are the repertory style theatre shows that they put in. So they're not necessarily going.
The South Street is probably
and South Street is probably
But things like Artemis and Stagecoach and all the rest of it, put on summer schools. They're forever looking for venues.
Yeah,
that's a big income generator.
It's the fact that they can use them, but when we've got that space, there are companies like small puppet show companies that will come in, and they need technical spec that can be operated easily and quickly and correctly. They will come in with a very small set of van, lob it up, 2 shows in a day, head off, and you can do a cinema in the evening. There's all of those opportunities.
I think many Woodley residents are still not aware we have a theatre.
And that's all going to be part of this project, and that's why that consultancy is needed.
And we have to
no one here will know what
we've got to market it as well. It's no good having the best facilities that nobody knows about. It's got to be proper. It's got to be a proper marketing program behind it. In the interest of time, sorry.
So I'd say yes. Let's get
Okay, to vote, all those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Right. Silver Fox Crescent update, a bit of good news, I think.
It's now 17.
17, timeline 81. Timeline proposal.
So yes, this report on page 81 is requesting an allocation of £8,000 for delivery of a timeline project in the Oakwood Centre to celebrate the 50th anniversary of the Town Council. Previously, the committee requested that officers develop a plan for the project and come back with a proposal. So the proposal here is to install a timeline along the main corridor in the Oakwood Centre. It would be modern in appearance, so mounted on acrylic panels and showing key dates and events through the history of Woodley and in particular achievements of the Town Council over the last 50 years. Officers have been working with volunteers from U3A, which has been really, really good on some of the specific events and buildings to be included. And they've already kind of gone in and started pulling some of those things together. Really importantly, the timeline would utilise QR codes that would link to background documents in the council website. So it's got a kind of dual function. A certain amount of stuff will be on the installation itself, but it would have this really big resource of information sat behind it, which means it would work as a historic reference and resource for school kids or anyone interested in history of Woodley. There is an image on page 83, which shows a small section of a similarly themed installation at Shinfield Parish Council. The proposed installation for here would be considerably larger and has that, as I said, that other function of that historic resource behind it. But that gives you an idea of what it would look like. I think that'd be a fabulous project.
So it opposite the side to the wall to the ferry map.
So further down, so you've got the glass on this side, so you better see it from outside as well. So that long section down towards the council offices.
Okay.
When would we aim to complete this project and have the grand opening by the mayor? Well, are we planning to do have a 50th anniversary week or?
At this point, we haven't explored that in terms of time, delivery time. We'd anticipate it should be done by April.
Good. Can I ask as a?
Are Juliet still about?
Sorry. So yes. So just before we go to the recommendations, can we also, as a side issue, if we're doing that, can we investigate updating the map?
Yes. How old is it?
20 years old or something, isn't it?
Yeah, look into it. Well, one thing I would say is quite a lot of people like to look at it from a historical point of view about, oh, look, that used to be different. That was.
A lot of people touch it.
But could you just, because you might not be able to get it done, and B, it might be.
I can make some inquiries.
Take to the Sharpie if you want.
I mean, I think a lot of children come in and their parents are like, oh, our house isn't here.
Yeah. Well, we can get stickies. Velcro and stickies.
I'll be
my house isn't here. That's okay. It is now.
I mean, I understand that from a historic perspective, it is free. And if we had enough space, it'd be great to keep both. But
it's just quite dark. If we're going to have something really modern and acrylic and QR-y, I just find that quite a dark area.
It's very light further down where this one would.
Yeah, really lovely.
It's stuck with the map. It's like, but I can.
But we do use that space quite often, don't we? Like when we were consulting on the new playground and all sorts of things. Would we still be able to? Would we be losing that?
I think we can do that elsewhere. Probably.
Right. So the recommendations on page 82. Note the content and approve up to £8,000. All those in favour, please show. Thank you very much. Now the Silver Fox Crescent update.
Yes, so literally to note what's there, which is that received some of just over £70,000 in respect of the council's interest in land previously sold at Silver Fox Crescent, and as previously reported.
Yep. Right. Community interest at page 84. I think this is probably the last one for decision.
Yeah, thank you. We have received a request from Woking Borough Council, which outlines some projects which they're asking contribution from towns and parishes to support. Suggested that this might come from SIL funds allocated to the town council. We don't currently have any unallocated SIL funds, so any contribution, if the council did want to contribute to any of those projects, would have to come from the general reserve. So I'm not sure how much time there is for that.
A question for you.
Yeah.
Surely Woking and Borough Council know what our SIL position is.
They do.
Don't you have to report when you're spending it or
they do.
allocating it?
So there's some anticipation of what might be coming in the future. Plus, they don't also know what we've got allocated as opposed to actually spent, which is also kind of out of date by the time they get it reported back on the form. But
well, what do people think? No. Oh. I was hesitant to say that, particularly if we're going to be spending money on Weevil Park.
Tell them yes, but don't send it to them.
Not to say naughty.
No, we'll just say we'll make a decision at our next meeting and never give a date.
Yeah.
Right, so I'm going to suggest now that we refuse this. All those in favour, please show.
Can I just ask, actually, are these ideas for, like, the Woodley Centre play area, totem, etc., those are ideas all coming from our council?
Yeah.
They want a contribution.
Yeah, there's
And what
specific.
is Badger's Rise?
It's off Warren Road.
Just as you're going up, turn right. It's the newest step. There's that
There's a lot of small houses and families in there.
Oh, okay.
Interesting enough, projects 2 and 3, basically they're asking us to fund 100%. So
Yeah. Oh, is that 100%?
Yes, isn't it? Yeah.
Project costs.
so all those in favour, we've done that, haven't we? We voted that. Can I just say it's ironic in the sense that we voted to spend money on Reading Borough Council, Weevil Park, and we're not to do. We'll leave that. Then we've got just a couple other quickies. Climate emergency action plan update. Really, do we need to, other than that?
Yeah, so that's, so we've given you a supplementary, so what we don't have is the action plan update. But all of our efforts since the last meeting have obviously been on the climate action week, which took place last week. Because of the timeline for that, we obviously had approval to do it earlier in the year, but we've never come to you with a full list of exactly what's happened. So I've just provided this as an extra supplementary appendix and put it on your desks, which shows the events that took place last week. I think we had 12 events in total. We had over 200 people involved in the wake in one way or another. And at the bottom of that, also I've listed the names of the organisations and individuals that helped by running events last week specifically, that were involved in that running an organisation of all the weeks, which without them, obviously, we would have only had 1 or 2 events that we could run.
Thank you, Chair. I'd just like to record my thanks to the officers and their team for organising this event and getting people in. It was, I mean, some days there were not that many people there, but actually everybody was really engaged. And the ones that lots of people did come to were brilliant. And, you know, I think it made the individuals and the charities that got involved feel heard, which I think is half the battle, isn't it, really? So I think they were great events. I came to a few of them and David attended a few of the others on my behalf. So they were really good. Thank you, guys. It was a good week. And I would strongly suggest that it's not every year, but I would strongly suggest that we try and do something like that, because having a week of activities really focus people's minds into the open.
Could I also ask, Matt, that we put up some sort of report, but then do an extract and put out a press release?
I've been asked to.
Yeah, that's happening now. So
Okay,
she's
good.
putting that together. Yeah, she's actually pulled together quite a decent sized report of the week, which is going to go up on a web page to go, this is what happened with pictures and everything, and then a reduced version of that, which will go out as a press release to say that's a summary of what happened during the week.
And can you circulate that report, the big one, to all councillors,
Yes.
please? And that ought to be done automatically without being requested. And something I think we also should do automatically, all press releases should be circulated, not for approval.
We have agreed that in the past.
And I haven't
Raised it and
seen,
agreed it, and it hasn't happened.
the last time I've ever seen a press release. It needs to happen.
I'll pass that on to Anushka and ask her that she does
Yeah.
that on everyone. Yep.
No, just a distribution list of all the councillors.
Yeah.
All right? Of the press, and I would personally, I would extend it to the borough councillors as well for Woodley. After all, we're all Woodley councillors at the end of the day.
We
Don't send him 2 or him 2 because they only need 1.
It looks like we will be getting still from the tennis courts in the region of almost £15,000. So there is money.
Right, I'm closing the meeting 10 minutes past, is it 11 minutes past 10?
Just future.
Oh, future. I am trying to get you home.
Oh, it's finished.
Future agenda items, any? No. Publicity and website? No. Thank you very much for your perseverance. It's been long and but a lot of work has been carried out.
Big list of
Debates as well.
Thanks, Keith. Good meeting.
Bye, bye.
Bye.
Before I do that,
Yes.